You're this perp back with another video, and I just got done watching the Grimm Variations season 1. Hopefully there's a season 2, but this is something I was looking forward to. This is a animated series coming from Wit Studios, so you already know the animation will be on point. We start off with the introduction of our storytellers, these three characters right here, James, Willem, and Charlotte, the girl. And the first story that they kick off with is Cinderella. Now, I won't go into any spoilers as far as like the major twists or anything that happens at the end of these stories, but I found Cinderella to be very refreshing because usually we see Cinderella is our hero and the person that we like the most in these stories, but here they kind of really flip it where you have the would-be evil stepsister mom getting married to this guy that's a very powerful person. He comes from money, and then we get introduced to his daughter, Kyoko. And Kyoko is pretty much our Cinderella-esque character. But the flip side of this story is, instead of her being the hero or the good person in the story, she's actually the villain. And the two sisters are looked at as the bad guys in this. Obviously, they come off as like spoiled, privileged brats, and Kyoko really plays into that to kind of manipulate things around her and manipulate things to go bad for the sisters. And I really like the twist. Now, the horror aspect was very mild in this first one, but I do like the twist and just having Kyoko being somewhat of, if you've ever seen the movie Good Son, she reminds me of Macaulay Culkin's character in there, where he's just kind of playing this role and making people just kind of feel like she's innocent and she can do no wrong while all this bad, tragic stuff is happening. It still left me satisfied with this first story. Then we get to episode 2, the Little Red Riding Hood, and here the whole setting changes. We're put into this futuristic setting where you have just looks like the earth has been decimated. It looks like something out of Fallout, and you're able to upload your consciousness, and there's these eye drops that can manipulate your reality. So much fascinating things going on just with the world building with this second episode. But we get introduced to this character named Gray, and he comes from a group of wolves that go around just hunting women. And with this episode, it's definitely the most violent and pretty damn graphic. You know, they do some cutaways, but I find this one to be the most fascinating because the character Gray, you know, he has such a bloodlust until he goes down to the real world where things are real, and he has to look for this girl, Scarlet. I won't go any further than that, but I would watch a whole entire series surrounding this character, Scarlet, and this whole organization of wolves. It almost gave me like a John Wick type of vibe as far as how the organization kind of plays out. Now, the third episode, Hansel and Gretel, this I will not spoil anything about. I'll just tell you, it reminds me of The Promised Neverland. The aesthetic and just, you know, Hansel and Gretel at this like children's home being looked out after these two caretakers. I like the vibe. The twist definitely was a huge mindfuck, so I will just leave it at that. Also, I would be so down for Wit Studios to reanimates The Promised Neverland, because just what they did with this episode, I'd be so intrigued to see them do like a full adaptation of that manga, not what we got with the original series, but I digress. Next is the elves and the shoemaker. Now, I'm not familiar with this story, but out of everything visually, I feel like animation-wise, this is my favorite. You have this author that goes by the name of Mr. N, and he is just a struggling writer, having writer's block, until this mysterious girl comes into his life. And then things start to take a shift where he notices people are actually enjoying his work. And he does a lot of inner monologuing, and he has a lot of self-doubt of his own type of work, but he kind of just feeds into it. And where that goes is pretty interesting. Then we get this next episode, which really feels like, from the animation and the vibes, it reminds me of something coming out of like the early 2010s, a little Black Lagoon-ish, Trigun, Desert Punk-esque, with this story where you have these three chicks. One of them that goes by the name of Mad Dog. She used to be a sheriff, and she now has this kind of crew, which this is another one I would definitely watch a whole series on, especially the animation, because it just feels so nostalgic. You have these three women just in town, and they cross paths with these outlaws called the Wade brothers, and very simple premises. Just this group is tracking down other gangs and bad guys, and this is the most action out of any of the episodes that I've seen. Then we have the last episode, the Pied Piper episode. This one was very weird at first, because it's about this girl named Maria. She is from this village that is very much self-contained. It's closed off from the outside world. It's very bleak. It's dark. It's always depressing. Her grandma pretty much runs the village, and whatever she says goes, as far as just how Maria moves in life, who she marries to. And you have this obsessed teacher that is head over heels and a very overprotective of Maria. And this episode is getting really weird with his character. But then you have this traveler that comes into town. I'm assuming that is supposed to be Peter Pan or some version of him or her. Very interesting stuff, And once you get to the last few minutes of that episode, it really brings everything full circle as far as like Maria and the story that they were trying to tell, and just what they did animation wise within those last few minutes was just incredible. And just the message was just so clear, because at first I was just like, yeah, this teacher needs to be locked up. He's kidnapping people and he's doing things he shouldn't do. He's just doing way too much. But they brought all these stories together really well, and even like just the narration that comes from our storytellers here, the brothers Grimm and Charlotte and whatnot. I like the art style. It has this like kind of story book type of vibe to it. Each individual episode, the art styles are unique, and you could definitely tell that Wit Studios brought their best, and just everybody that worked on this, from the visuals to the sounds to just everything, to bring this kind of project together. They did a fantastic job. I will say though, it does say horror and stuff like that. I feel like the description of this is going to be misleading and kind of disappointing for some people, because I definitely thought that this was going to be full-on horror when it's really not that. Like the first two definitely lean into that horror vibe, and then episode 3 and 4 kind of shift the tone a bit. They go a little sci-fi, we get a little bit of western, you get a little bit of everything in this, but I overall enjoyed this. I'm curious to see if they're going to do a season 2, but let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. Until next time, I'm out.